Welcome back, viewers, to the second to last edition of Heads Up this year. And gee, this year's flown by, but Merry Christmas, everybody, and Merry Christmas, Goat. Hopefully you're looking forward to a few drinks and a restful time tomorrow.
Sure are, Neil. Yep. It's that one day when you sort of really put your feet up and relax and enjoy your family. And so we're looking forward to that. And I'm sure you will be too. You'll probably be slaving over the turkey or the ham, being the chef that you are.
We've got a few, got all the family here, so there'll be a bit of turkey, a bit of ham, and whatever. I'll have the leftovers. But last week it was great racing, wasn't it? And we were head to head on Tavi Mac and Call Sign Mav. But when I saw Tavi Mac go down in his prelim, I thought, oh, I'm in trouble here. And no, it was spot on. Tavi Mac, too strong, too good, wasn't he?
He's a pretty exceptional racehorse, to be fair, Neil. I mean, he's not blessed with huge ability, but he's blessed with a attitude and a will to win that is, I think, really seen in a lot of horses. He just has that way about him. He just puts his head right down and he pins his ears back, and he's trying 110% up the straight, and he's got enough ability to win most races. But it was good. Nice to get that win over you, mate. Just to remind you that the old gate does know something from time to time.
Yeah, that was spot on. Of course, I have had his chance, obviously. Had to work a bit wide early on, but there's no way he would have turned the tables even without that. Got to work early on. So,
but you redeemed yourself in the following race, though, Neil. You came up trumps there with a double-figure winner, Hunter Pence winning by the barest of margins, and that Wanganui Cup form standing up this year, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, they still play the same, don't they? They win by half a whisker or half the length of the straight. So that was a perfect ride by Daryl Bradley too. He got him out, perfect spot, got going at the right time. And I thought Balsetto had him 100 metres out. That weight just told in the last couple of strides. And it was a good race. And to see quite a few people got that quaddie, and one subscriber got the place 6. The pool was 6,000, and then he got a decent portion of that $6,000 out of that place 6. So he said, "Don't tell too many people because everyone else will start taking the place 6s." Okay, David, I won't tell anybody. So.
Oh, well done, David. No, I must admit the place 6 doesn't really spin my wheels, but that's the beauty, is that everyone has their different theories and strategies, and so no, well done, David.
Only spent $25 to get, I think, $3,000, or $1.5 back, I think. So, for an interest, $25 is a good way to go. Yeah. So you were there on track. What was the atmosphere like? Looked to be a decent crowd there.
No, probably not as good a crowd as you'd expect. Well down on the previous Saturday, but actually, funnily enough, Neil, the betting figures were up. So just shows you, it just depends on what type of people you get on track in terms of how the betting figures go, and obviously helped again by the Manawatu Punter of the Year competition. And a good guy and a couple of his mates won it. Paul Gwynn from Palmy, he's just a regular kickabout punter, entered, got a good Quinella, I think in race 4 it was, with Sassenach, and then hung in there, and then like Kelly's inspiration in the last, had a each way ticket on her, and they got 30 of the Quinella, I think it was, it paid $34, so finished with about 3,400 from a starting pool of 720, and that was enough to take home the prize.
Gee, it's good stuff. It was tough going there on Saturday. So, how far away was second place?
I think second was only 1,800 from memory. So it was a pretty comprehensive victory in the end.
Just goes to show you can win it with $3,000. So, okay. Now we had some good racing last week. Good, excellent racing on Saturday. It looks like a Te Akau benefit day, doesn't it?
A lot of short price favourites there, aren't there, on Saturday at Ellerslie? But, you just got to be careful with those ones, I think, Neil. Some will be good, but I don't think they'll all be winning just quietly.
Well, you think there's, 6 favourites there? You think 2 or 3 there that do look really well placed, even though they'll be off the pace. They should get the tempo to win, like Famous BB, I think. I haven't posted the analysis yet, but they just didn't go quite hard enough for last start, and I think on Saturday they will go harder up front. She'll get 3 back in, I'm picking, and the gap should come. I think she's a winner.
Well, what about in the Zabeel Classic, the feature on the card, race 9? Do you think Opie Bosson on In a Twinkling could dominate from in front and give Tiakio a win in this race as well?
Well, it's a race that, and the Bone Crusher too, isn't it? It's a race that always seems to be a bit of a sprint sort of affair. And I think Opie's going to do everything he can to get the front. He's drawn too. He's got every chance to get there. Dino Severini should love the trail. And I can see him just ticking along and nothing will come around unless something sees Opie getting a soft time up front and takes him on. But yeah, I can see In a Twinkling leading, Gino Severini trailing, and Rock On Wood 3 back in her, and being a sprint home again. So what do you think? What do you think is going to happen? Tricky one.
Yeah, I think you're probably on the mark there. Thing with this starting distance at Ellerslie, it's only about 120, 150 meters to that first bend, and so if you're not committed out of the barrier, you're going to get caught wide in that first turn. So I think they might find their places pretty quickly, and then Opie might dominate from in front. So In a Twinkling have to be hard to beat. I quite like Gino Severini just to lob a place at $3.40. I think he'll get his nice soft run and likes the track, and probably might not have the class of some of the horses, but the way the race could be run could suit. And yeah, I thought that might have been a reasonable bet. But you're sticking with your favourite. You're back in the Rock on Wood camp after deserting him at Trentham.
I've got to be. I think he's by Redwood. You'd think 2,000 metres will suit even better. It was a dominant win off the hardest run at Trentham. I think he's 3 back in if he gets out in time. The only caveat is that when he ran 7th, I think, in the Bone Crush, he got out wide, was a bit lost on the bend, and came down the outside okay. And it's a bit of a sprint home, granted, but no, I think he'll get out. The better horse coming through horses. I think he'll win. He wouldn't go silly on him. But, I like Gino Severini for a place, and Concert Hall, I think, is looking for 2,000 metres now. But she'll get back and be hoping for a reasonable tempo. So interesting race, but I'll go Rock on Wood, and maybe Dino Severini. I'll chuck on the trifectas and quinellas as well to with price. And In a Twinkling, you've got to have him in the combinations too, don't you? Just the mere fact, like you mentioned, he's going to likely lead for the soft one. And, the way he's going, crazy.
Exactly. No, if you go back and watch the probably the last 15 Zabeel Classics, I'd say 10 of them have been dominated by on-speed runners. Horses like Authentic Paddy come to mind. Saint Emilion from memory, True Enough, was handy last year. I know there's the exception. Cowie came from last, but he was a pretty good horse. So, it'll be all about the tempo, I'd say, in that race. So looking forward to it, though. It'll sort of just provide the icing on the cake on what should be a great day's racing at Ellerslie on Saturday.
Actually, on that point, I was going back through last year's Boxing Day races here. A number of horses came from off the pace to win. So it is all tempo related. You get a decent tempo. Most horses, well, every horse will get their chance being held up or blocked, whatever. But those speed maps will be interesting. There's a couple of speed maps here that'll help you either back the favourite or not back the favourite if you think it's going to be a chance coming off the pace. Good racing there. And, right out now, you've had your short spell for the last 2 or 3 weeks, and people are waiting for the sports bet. It's been a while. So, what do you come up with?
Well, we'll come up with something. We won't be tipping out a winner for this year, Neil, because if this is going to win, you're going to have to wait till next year, but not too long into the new year. I think the final of the darts is on the 2nd or maybe the 3rd of January. So overall winner of the World Darts Championship that started, obviously a bit different this year, no crowd, well, limited crowd. Entrusted a bit of help on this pick, actually.
Yeah.
With a very much one of New Zealand's best darts players, giving me a bit of insight. And we've come up with Gerwyn Price to win the World Champs. $7 he's paying.
Yep.
But Michael Van Gerwen, he's $3. He'd normally be $1.50. So you can tell by the price he's a bit out of form.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's got that same killer instinct that he's had over the last few years. And you got to remember, he's only won 3 World Championships, and he's probably been favourite for the last 7 or 8. So, and this would be the biggest price he's paid in a while. Excuse the pun. But Peter Wright, the theory is he needs crowd motivation, so he might not quite be at his best. And Price has been knocking on the doors, pushed Van Gerwen close on a number of occasions on the big stage, and I think this is his year, peaking, as you would say, Neil, about his 4th or 5th World Championship, ex-professional rugby player. So I reckon he's now ready to strike, and the $7 looks a fair price for me for Gerwyn Price to be crowned champion of the world come early 2021.
I'll drop on him. He sounds like the rock on wood of Group 1 darts players. So
exactly.
That'll do, mate. $7. I'll be on him, and I'll watch that final and make sure hopefully he's in there.
Hopefully he's there.
That's right, yeah.
You probably get knocked out tomorrow.
Yeah. Now, last week's multi question, or before the multi question, we had Stuart who got the multi up last week with Dawn Parade and Raw Performer, just over $200. So he was happy as a Larry.
Good Christmas present for you, Stuart. Well done.
Yeah,
so the question we posed last week was Chris Johnson was threatening to break David Walsh's record, which funnily enough he did on Saturday, and what a great call it was by Tony Lee too.
It was too.
Just hitting the moment perfectly with his call. So we wanted to know, who did David Walsh take the record from, and the answer, of course, was Lance O'Sullivan, and I think 8 people correct.
Yep.
So actually, I think Stuart was number 8 last week, so I'm going to stick with number 8 again.
Right, Kevin L. Well done, Kevin.
Kevin L.
You will get your multi posted.
So we'll give away one more before the end of the year next week, Neil, with a question.
Yep. Good question.
To be in to win. So we've talked about the Zabeel Classics. We've talked about on-speed runners. We want to know the horse who led all the way in the Zabeel Classic of a certain year. We won't give you the year. But in doing so, this horse inflicted the only New Zealand defeat on Excellent. So Excellent lost once in New Zealand only, and it was in the Zabeel Classic to this horse. Who was the horse that beat Excellent in that Zabeel Classic, dictating from in front?
Yeah. Handy little hint too. He was called the People's Champion too, wasn't he, from memory?
He was indeed. Oh, that's just more than a handy hint, Neil.
And David Walsh rode him to win, I think, the Captain Cook Stakes.
Thorndon Mile.
Thorndon Mile, that's right, yeah. And it was a good one. I remember watching that race live. But he was a good, tough horse. Yeah. You get those in 027 352 6402 or formpro.co.nz by next Tuesday. That might be fine. I'll draw that out next week. Right, put back some bouquets. Something you're quite keen on mentioning that we both part of on a Sunday morning.
Oh yeah. If you haven't yet listened to the podcast, I guess you'd call it, live radio show, Sundays with Clado, it's a great 2 hours of listening via the Boys Get Paid app or through the Love Racing website, and you can stream it in your car if you're driving and whatnot. But I just find it a refreshing review of Saturday's racing, good interest stories, and just actually a good source of winners. Robbie Patterson came on, I know, the week before last and declared Lady Rudolph a certainty at Otaki, and she delivered. And yeah, Mark Clayton, he has a good way of getting information out of his guests, and I think people enjoy his style of broadcasting, and so it's a good listen. Actually, I do very much enjoy it.
Yeah, so do I too. I have it on while I'm doing the sectionals and It's pretty interesting to listen to. Lots of variety of people, a bit of breeding. I review the sectionals from the previous day. Many talk about the CD races and sports are on there as well. So no, it's good variety. Right. Oh yeah, I mentioned that. Like I mentioned the steward vision on the Love Racing site. It's good to be able to see that vision because you get the back on, side on, front on, all the views you want to see of a race. Some, they take a week or more to get up there sometimes. Sometimes they aren't up there, but when they are up there, it's really good to see how a horse is racing rather than just the usual camera shot they show you on trackside. So it's great initiative by Love Racing. Well done. Right. Now, last week we talked about Bob McCosh having a couple of horses that we went down memory lane with. Now, this week you've got an interesting horse that I remember vaguely, but you can fill us in.
Yeah, I remember him too, like in my early, I guess, it actually happened to be my first year at university, but he was an iron horse, but like Satisfy, who we touched on 2 weeks ago. And the horse we refer to as Roger John, Indian Ore Gelding. He started his career. Now, if anyone does remember who trained him, I knew he was trained at Avondale. Can't
I
quite
do.
remember.
I do.
You do?
I do. Thanks
Who is
to Jim Flay. Ronald J. Williams.
Ah, yes. There we go. Ronald J. Williams. So he started racing as a 2-year-old in October of 1990. And he had 22 starts as a 2-year-old, Neil.
Yeah.
22 starts as a
Amazing.
2-year-old.
Wouldn't happen these days.
8 wins within that. So he's a very handy 2-year-old. I don't think many 2-year-olds couldn't. I'd be interested if anyone can come up with a 2-year-old who won more than 8 races in New Zealand. But you just go through his record. He's had a few starts, October, November, December. He ran in the what we'd call the Matamata Slipper now, run 4th in that. And he ran in the size produce at Ellerslie, only finished 11th there. But then the track started to get a bit heavier sort of in that April-May period, and that's when he came into his own. These were 2-year-old handicaps he was running in. In April, he carried 59.5 kilos to win. Then he won the Champagne Stakes over basically a mile at Ellerslie on a heavy track in May. Then in June, he won carrying 61.5 kilos. Then 2 weeks later, he backed up carrying 63.5 kilos as a 2-year-old. Only ran second that day. Then he had a bit of a freshen up, you'd say, because he then went 5 weeks without a run. And he went down to Otaki, ran in the Ryder Stakes, run 5th behind a horse called Viandacross. So that was on the 24th of July. You'd think, okay, he's done enough for his 2-year-old season. But then 2 days later, he backs up at Whangarei. Otaki on the 24th, Whangarei on the 26th in the Auckland Thoroughbred Breeders' Plate, runs 3rd in that to a very smart horse called Low Door Lady. So, yeah, 22 starts for 8 wins as a 2-year-old, carried on to his 3-year-old career, won again in September, won twice in September, went over to Australia, competed in the Caulfield Guineas and the Guineas Trial, and then kept running and was retired. I just assume he had an injury. Retired in the December of his 3-year-old career, having had 34 starts for 10 wins. Certainly an iron horse, you'd say, Neil. They didn't die wondering. If he was sound and he was fit, he was racing.
Yeah, no, it sounds like he was the March legend of 2-year-olds. It was a March legend raced earlier, a decade earlier. 70s, well, a couple of decades earlier, 70s.
I wonder what the Stripes would say today if you lined a horse up on Thursday at Otaki and then lined it up Saturday at Ruakaka, whether they'd even let you do that. But yeah, amazing, really.
Yeah,
he must have been pretty tough.
Look at it was, as you mentioned, by Indian Ore, and they were renowned wet track size horses. So
yeah, he was probably the wet track sire of the '80s. Indian Ore. I remember a horse called Young Indian that won a Bayer Classic. That was by Indian Ore.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No,
Yeah.
these are interesting. These are, you look back and you go, well, the trainer's too soft today. Have the horses changed in terms of their breeding, and they're not as, shall we say, more fine boned perhaps, and not couldn't handle that sort of workload. But yeah, it's just interesting looking back at I know these are two, I guess you'd say, anomalies, but certainly both Satisfy and Roger John performed at a very high level at a regular basis as a young horse.
Yeah. Amazing training feat too, and maybe with Karaka Millions, and anything that's qualified for that race, target, so they would be racing a few times to qualify for it, then be set for it, wouldn't they? So in those days, there was no big 2-year-olds apart from the rider, I suppose. In those days,
Oh, there was the Magic Millions. They did have the Magic Millions down at Trentham at that time.
oh yeah, that's fair enough.
I think, yeah, I think that started in maybe 91, Ruakuna from memory. But yeah,
Yep.
I just, even looking here, is in his 3-year-old career, he ran in 3 consecutive Saturdays in November. The Guineas trial, that's at Waikato, then the actual Waikato Guineas, and then the Derby trial at Ellerslie. 3 Saturdays in a row. Yeah, so it's just amazing how the horses just, or some horses, kept running and running and running.
Just must just love racing and are sound horses. So that's great. Rightio. Now on I think Sunday actually is the Punters Club at New Plymouth. The people who were in the Tauranga one, nearly everyone's rolled over to that one there. So we've got a couple of thousand into that on Sunday. And anything we get back from that, we'll roll over to the, just for our syndicate, we'll roll over to the second day as well. So hopefully we make a few dollars on Sunday too.
I think the weather looks a bit overcast and rainy down here in the CD at the moment, Neil, but I think it's improving and should be a good day on Sunday. They'll get a big crowd on course there, so hopefully that pool will swell. You'll be able to have some big bets and hopefully make some money for everyone. And then, yeah, the Form Pro syndicate within that Punters Club will roll their money over, if there is any, to the 29th.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy time of the year, but we'll just take it day by day and we'll get there. I'll also be doing one for the Tauranga Punters Club as well. So depending on how we go at Plymouth, I'll let subscribers know about that. Rightio. I want to say Merry Christmas to you, Goat. And next week we'll have a roundup of how the year went. But I want to say Merry Christmas to David, who's done a fantastic job with helping me with my site and the rating site. And to my brother Mark and Lady Cordell, who helps me out with the sectionals. Been really helping me out quite a bit throughout the year, and really appreciate that. Have a lovely Christmas, and we'll look forward to all catching up next week. Anything else you want to mention before we sign off? Okay.
No, thank you, Neil, for another good year of podcasts. We sort of discovered Zoom just before we needed to discover it.
That's right. Yeah, we did.
Yes, but I think this format works well, and I think people enjoy it. The numbers of viewers are pretty solid. So thank you to all the subscribers. Without you guys, this wouldn't happen. So we appreciate your support, and your continued feedback is always welcome. So thank you to you guys, and hopefully you've found a winner or two over the year, and or maybe learned something, or even had a laugh, probably at our expense. But hey, we don't mind that, do we, Neil?
It happens every week, so you're used to it. So. Okay, so everyone have a Merry Christmas, and we'll catch up with you next week.